Hi, everybody. My name is Cynthia Sanchez, and today I'm going to be talking about asking and answering questions. So, the first section is going to involve answering questions. So, one of the first and foremost, most important things you need to know is what situation are you in? Before you can answer any question, you need to understand the type of situation that you are in. Why is this important? Imagine yourself in two very, very different situations, and you get asked the same exact question. Are you going to answer differently or respond the same? So let's imagine that you are engaging with somebody who could be a potential client, and then you're engaging in a different scenario with someone who has been working with you for 5 years as your client. They ask you the same question. You're going to need to be able to answer them differently. So it's very important to know where you are before you decide what to do. Next, you need to know typical questions in sales situations. So no matter the industry, the type of product or service that you are selling, you should be able to answer questions, common questions about things like pricing, your product or services that you offer, value proposition to the clients, ROIs, and how those things are measured or metrics are measured, and being able to answer questions with genuine expertise and transparency will help you build value with prospects and show trust and value. Next, you need to know what kinds of questions to expect. So oftentimes you'll find yourself not understanding the true reasoning as to why somebody is asking you a specific question. So it's best to make sure that you prepare. When you are asked a question, take a moment and pause, reflect, and think, why might this person be asking me this question? So, for example, somebody asks you, how much does this cost? This person could be asking you this question for many different reasons. For example, they could be trying to find a reason to complete a purchase. They might be thinking about their budget. They might be looking for a reason to not purchase. So what you need to do is need to know how to respond. The first step to responding well is knowing the why behind the question being asked. So reasons why you might be responding to a given question could be to provide relevant information, to tailor your responses to match that person's priorities, to address concerns, things that might be underlying that you didn't know existed. It might be using the question to pivot the conversation towards a goal, building rapport and showing genuine interest and empathy, uncovering needs that you didn't know that person might not have mentioned yet. And then it's important to remember that sometimes you should hold off on answering a question, not because you're dishonest, but because it's better to answer a question with the accurate and relevant information, and take your time to do that. So next two steps are going to be considering your options to respond. So again, like we just discussed, you don't need to always answer immediately. It's best to gather more information to prepare your responses. So you could use a different response strategy depending on the situation. So if you want to answer, you could just simply respond directly to the questions. Clarify, you could ask follow-up questions, which can be direct or indirect. Defer, which means to delay the answer while giving more getting more information. And then you could do this by answering ambiguously, bridging to another question, etc. Delaying, you can let the prospect know that you're going to give them an answer once you actually have more information and have collected that. Next, respond appropriately. So you need to understand the intent behind the question and not just the question itself. You want to make sure that you're giving an accurate answer that'll help move the conversation towards a decision. So what do you need? You need to know the most common customer questions. Actually take your time to be knowledgeable about the product or service. Don't just memorize, whoever you're training with, take the time to gather as much information as possible so that you can become an expert yourself, and then know when you might need to involve another expert. What does this do? This will help you build credibility, trust, be in control of the sales conversation, and help you speed up that process, etc. Section 2 involves asking questions. So you need to understand the situation that you are in every time you meet. So every sales meeting requires a different approach, and your questions should match wherever that individual or prospect is in the buyer's journey. So there's multiple different types of sales situations. There's lead generation, which involves identifying, qualified prospects, meetings, which are that are at the commencement, which is a discovery meeting, and then where you would explore that specific individual's goals, challenges, etc. Additional meetings where you confirm previous information and discuss solutions. Closing stage is the finalizing, asking questions to, um, you know, finalize decisions and pricing, etc. And you want to make sure that you are prepared for every single meeting and adapt your approach as more information is uncovered. And this will help you improve closing success. You also want to make sure that you're using sales methodology to get information. And what sales methodology is, it's a structured process that helps guide sales professionals to engage with certain prospects. There's different ones that you can use in different sales situations. So for example, there's spin selling, there's the challenger sale, there's medic, there's a Sandler selling system, neat selling, snap selling, poets. They're all used in different sales situations, whether they're simple or very complex. It's important to make sure that you know which one to utilize. And also businesses will commonly stick to one specific sales system, so or methodology, so that all of their sales teams are cohesive and are following one general rule of thumb. There's different types of questions you can ask. So there's three. We've talked about these before. Exploratory questions, where you gather information about the prospect, the what, how, and why, and then their goals and challenges, as well as confirmatory questions, which will verify facts and information. They're usually answered with a yes or no, and persuasive questions, which will guide the prospect towards a decision and help you highlight value. Sorry, and address concerns. Next, I'm so sorry. You're going to need to know the information to gather. And to do this, you're going to use the MINS framework, which stands for money, budget, financial priorities, and constraints. Involved decision makers, who's a stakeholder here. You're going to need to know the needs, which involves problems, goals, and what that prospect is wanting to improve on. Timing, which is their purchase timeline and urgency. Solutions and recommended products or services. And this will help provide a complete picture of the sales opportunity. And like we discussed, works for simple and complex sales situations. And next, you need to know how to gather information in a sales meeting. So the framework for this is going to be POETS, which stands for perspective, understanding the prospects' views, obstacles, identify current challenges, enhancements, where do they want to improve, what areas, timing, which involves determining deadlines, spent, which stands for understanding current costs or potential savings. And like we had said, it's important to prepare questions before the meeting and use probing questions to really get meaningful insights, and be sure to take notes of all the responses so that you can adapt based on how the conversation is going. What to do with the information that you have gathered. So you want to organize all of your findings, transform the information from your POETS into the MINS form, and you want to consolidate all of your details into one centralized, organized document, which will help you add your recommended solutions based on what that specific individual or prospect needs. And this will help you prepare for presentations, proposals, and it will give you a roadmap for successfully moving the sale forward, and make sure that you are tailoring towards that prospect's needs. And yeah, thank you so much.